Jonathan Von Tobel.
This, of course, is VSiN PrimeTime. This show is presented by ZYN Nicotine Pouches, America's #1 nicotine pouch. So find out more at zyn.com. Happy Memorial Day, everybody. Dave Ross, Holden Kushner coming at you for the next 3 hours. I am here at Circus Sports in fabulous Las Vegas, Nevada. Holden is in the great state of Colorado, not Denver proper, but you know what? We really don't care. You're around Denver, Holden, right? Close enough.
I'm around Denver, and right now I'm using my cell service to bet the Cubs money line plus 181.
Oh, we're going to have a lot of fun today.
So
we're going to have a lot of fun today. We're going to have Jason Paglia is going to join us here. You know him a little bit, Holden. Paglia, hey, forget about it, right?
We're going into business with him. We're starting a new website, Nuke the House. So,
Nuke the House.
Betting site. Yeah, we're going to go nuke some bets tonight. Looking forward to it, Ross. Last night we hit the Mavericks a little bit. We couldn't tell anybody though because we were live.
Correct. This
but today
show,
we could tell them what we're on.
We can just go at it like we're unleashed today. Of course, we're also going to have Jonathan Davis is going to join us here a little bit later on this hour to talk all things puck. Got a big game 3 tonight between Edmonton and Dallas north of the border. So we'll get into all that. We do want to begin, sadly, there is some sad news that we have to report, the passing of Bill Walton. And he passed away today. And I can't help but smile when I think of Bill Walton for everything he brought to us as a broadcaster. If you love the game of basketball like we do, and his passion for the Pac-12, I think he coined the phrase Conference of Champions. I believe he coined that phrase. And if there was anybody that loved life, it was Bill Walton. You know me from our DC day. I love passionate people about anything. And Bill Walton was as passionate as they get. But I think, Holden, people almost forget what a great player he was because he became such a personality after his playing days were long gone. Two-time NBA champion. But I've saw some, and it's hard to disagree. Some say he was the greatest college basketball player of all time. I think Lou Alcindor, then became Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, could also make that claim as well. But the great Bill Walton passes away today at the age of 71, and I think Holden, I think he would want us to be happy for the life that he lived, certainly in the world of sports. How do you remember Big Bill? Because to me, a smile on my face every time I think about him. And I think Holden has just frozen right there with a smile on his face. But again, the sad news today with the passing of Bill Walton at the age of 71. And again, just one of the greatest college basketball players, if not the greatest college basketball player, as we're going to talk a lot of basketball today later on in the program. And we'll get to what could be a closeout scenario today in Indiana. The Pacers will try to stave off elimination at the hands of the Celtics. Celtics up 3-0. And again, for those that don't know, if you don't know your past, you're condemned to repeat it. No team in the history of the NBA postseason has ever come back from an 0-3 deficit to win. So good news, Indiana. You got the chance to get stage number 1 of that comeback today. Don't know how that's going to happen. Right now, the Celtics about 7.5-point favorites in that one. And, of course, tomorrow, the Timberwolves will have a chance to embark on that very same history as they are down 0-3 to the Dallas Mavericks. So if we get these sweeps, if Boston sweeps away Indiana tonight, and if Dallas sweeps away Minnesota tomorrow, we're going to wait like a week and a half for the beginning of the NBA postseason. With the attention span of the kids today, they might not even remember that we've got an NBA final to happen in a week and a half. So I know that this stuff is preordained and it's already set in stone of when the NBA finals are going to begin. There's nothing you can do about it now. But I just wonder in the future if they'd be a little bit more fluid. You don't know the teams, so I don't know how you book the arenas and all those things that have to go into it. I know it's network TV, and that's how it plays in. But I wonder, a long delay like that, if it's really going to be beneficial for the NBA and the ratings. And I know that's what they care about, certainly on Park Avenue, Adam Silver and company there. But again, the Celtics are 7.5-point favorites tonight over the Pacers. This total has gone up. It was 222.5. It's gone up a tick to 223. And the reason why that is significant is, are you ready for this? In all 6 games in the Eastern Conference and the Western Conference, all 6 games have gone over the posted total. Odd. Keep waiting for Minnesota, this great defensive team, to slow down Dallas. That hasn't happened out west. I have no play right now on the total. And it's something that Holden and I talked a lot about yesterday. We'll talk a little bit more about today. It does feel like in the NBA postseason so far, if you just wait, if you have the patience of Job and wait until the games start, you can probably get a better in-game number one way or the other. You get a lot of points early. You might be able to wait, come back in a live in-game under, and get the better version of that 223, say it balloons up to 230. Or conversely, if you get off to a slow start, maybe that total comes down to a more manageable part around 210. I just worry about Indiana scoring. And I know it has not been a problem so far in the first three games. And I know Boston sometimes can look lackadaisical in their defensive effort. I just wonder at some point that you don't have Tyrese Haliburton. And I know you got some great contributions in game three to even make that close and to have the 18-point lead like you had in the third quarter. I just wonder if the scoring will finally slow down for Indiana today. Again, I do have a small play in the Celtics. I did lay the 7.5 in this one, even though I'll be rooting for Wes Reynolds and those fighting Indiana Pacers. I just feel like at some point, being undermanned as they are, it's got to show. The good news for the Celtics, and there is an impetus to try to get this done today, is they want more rest for the zinger, Kristaps Porzingis, because I think they're looking at it in the same way Dallas, I think, is going to approach Game 4 tomorrow. You know, as great as Luka Doncic has been, and he had 33 in that Game 3 win along with Kyrie Irving, he's not 100%, not even close to 100%. So it does behoove the Celtics to try to get this done today, to get that full 9 days maximum rest for the zinger, to try to get ready for the NBA Finals, the same way it would really help out Dallas to let Luka Doncic rest up on that knee. Even though he's been performing quite well with it, I think the rest would actually help, if you can believe it, Dallas and Boston, if that's the inevitable NBA Final. It feels inevitable because history has told us that it is. That because no teams ever come back from 03, if you really believe that to be the case, and I know that history sometimes, it doesn't always repeat, it feels like it will in this case. And if so, the Mavericks right now are plus $2 to win the NBA championship. That'll come down just a skosh. If they win and Boston wins, I'm probably looking at around $1.80, $1.90. So if you really believe the Mavericks are live, I would bet them now. If you're worried that the T-Wolves could be the first team to buck history and be that one that could come back from 03 down and do it, so be it. I understand that. And then you just wait and take the smaller price at plus $1.80, plus $1.90 instead of the $2 that you can get today. I do have a ticket on the Mavs at plus 625 to win the NBA title. I took that one before the East and the West started. The hope was, couldn't foresee that Haliburton would get hurt. The hope was that maybe the Pacers could upset the apple cart. I like Dallas in the series against the T-Wolves. So far, that looks good. Dallas would have been a big favorite over Indiana. Then you get really good value and come back the other way on a possible hedge. Could still look to that because, again, I think that price will be around $1.80, $1.90 if it is inevitable that it's going to be the C's and the Dallas Mavericks. Again, I'm going to talk a lot of puck today, as we mentioned with Jonathan Davis coming up later on this hour. I'm curious because I want to get his thoughts on Game 3. Again, these have been dead unders right now in the Western Conference Final, right? And you think of Edmonton, you think Connor McDavid, you think Draisaitl, you think of those great lines that put together a lot of points. They have not been putting up the points so far. You've been getting great goaltending. And I think if that stays, that trend would favor Dallas in these lower scoring affairs. Because I think you look at the Stars and think they've got better goaltending overall, and they've got better defense overall than Edmonton. I mean, go back a year ago, Edmonton could score with their power play was historic last year. Now they're playing a little bit better defense, actually a lot better defense to even get to the Western Conference Final. I don't know that this is the way they want to play every game, 2-1, 3-1, as it was. Remember, it was, for all intents and purposes, 2-1. They pulled the goaltender late, and Dallas got an empty netter to cover that puck line, by the way, in Game 2, 3-1. But again, for the most part, one-goal games. That's what we're talking about. First game goes to double overtime before Connor McDavid gets it done there. So I'm looking for more open ice tonight. I wonder if Jonathan concurs with that, and that would be more beneficial to the Edmonton side. That does feel like in the betting market, they are still the underdog, even though they got job number one done by getting home ice with that Game 1 win in Dallas. I still think that the experts, which Jonathan certainly is in puck, still feels like Dallas is the best team out west. The overall feeling was that Florida was the best team, particularly maybe of all four. And now they find themselves down 2-1. The first over hits in Game 3 last night with the Panthers losing at home in overtime to the Rangers 5-4. That series is starting to play out a little bit differently than I think people thought it would, even though the Rangers have home ice and, by the way, have it again by recapturing it with that win in Game 3. The belief was, at least the odds indicated, Florida was clearly the better team of the two, even without home ice. So I'll be curious to pick the brain of Jonathan Davis to figure out how much does home ice really matter as we get deeper and deeper into the Western and the Eastern Conference playoffs here before we get to the finals here for Lord Stanley's Cup. Because normally it's paramount. It's normally huge. And it doesn't feel to be the same advantage that we've seen in years past. And again, it's evidence right now with the Rangers 2-1 lead after winning Game 3 in Florida. And right now with Edmonton getting that Game 1 win in Dallas. And that one all knotted up at 1. So we've also got a lot of Memorial Day baseball to get to. I'm going to be talking a lot about those red hot, all of a sudden, Cincinnati Reds. They currently lead the Cardinals 3-1 right now in the Natty. And again, somebody last night on the program with Holden, hopefully you got to catch us last night in the look ahead. I did make a play last night, 18-1 on the Reds to win the Central. I know Jeremy Wengel, our director's back there. Mr. Cub, he's not going to be happy. I hope he doesn't cut my mic. I think the Reds are live. I think this division is truncated. I think you got all 5 teams right now that still have visions of grandeur in that division. So we'll talk much more about the NL Central as well. So don't go anywhere. This Memorial Day edition of VSiN PrimeTime continues in a moment.
This is VSiN Primetime with Tim Murray and Jonathan Von Tobel on VSiN, the sports betting network.
For a limited time only, we're slashing the price of our annual subscription. Normally $240. You can now secure your subscription for just $199. So sign up today. I'm going to throw in an extra 2 months for free. That's 14 months of VSiN Pro access for less than 50 cents a day when you use the promo code PRIME. But hurry, this special offer is only available until May 31st. So with VSiN Pro, you're going to get immediate access to our daily best bets, complete with a leaderboard showcasing the hottest VSiN experts, betting splits that reveal where the money and the bets are trending for every single game, exclusive betting systems, premium analysis, 24/7 video content. Remember, this offer will expire on May 31st, so visit VSiN.com/subscribe now to grab your 14 months of VSiN Pro for just $199 with the promo code PRIME. That's VSIN.com/subscribe. Back alongside Holden Kushner, Dave Ross here at Circus Sports Fabulous Las Vegas, Nevada. Holden, how was your break in the last segment? Did you get something to eat?
Just move on. That's all I'll say. You know, the one thing I had a chance to do is look up where the money's coming in on tonight's game, because I am on VSiN.com at the betting splits.
Oh.
So last night we were talking, this spread was 8, right?
Yes, it's come down.
Now, 7.5. Boston, 59% of the handle, 47% of the bet. So a lot of people backing the Pacers here. A lot of the sharp people backing the Pacers here coming into tonight's game.
You know, and again, I have a small play on the other side. I did lay the 7.5 with the Celtics tonight, and I'm not rooting for them. I'd love to see the fighting Wes Reynolds pull one out here and get this series back to 3-1. But I just, like, at some point, Holden, we talked a little bit about it last night. Halliburton's injury, they overcame the points. I still can't believe these overs are cashing 3-0 to the over here in this series. Do you attribute that more to the ball movement, that it's next man up mentality, and we're still going to run our offense the way we run our offense, or Boston just looks disinterested playing defense sometimes?
I mean, I think the whole team, Boston just looks disinterested from time to time during just about every single game.
Yeah, they do.
And it's fascinating. They're just so much more talented than the other teams that they're playing right now. So it's been a situation where it's the Eastern Conference. The competition isn't as tough. They're more talented. They're deeper than everybody else. And now they've got an Indiana team without Halliburton. And as I said last night, and I'll say it again, don't count on Nembhard scoring 32 points again. So who's going to be the guy that steps up tonight? And you've also got Rick Carlisle coming out saying, oh, guys, they got the trophy presentation. We're not going to let that happen tonight. So, Rick Carlisle's pulling out all the stops. Nembhard pulled out all the stops. Ultimately, the Celtics are going to win the series as it happened tonight. We'll bet it live. I'll definitely be betting it on the show. And I'll be hoping that the Pacers get off to a hot start. But The other thing is, it's been pretty close games as well. So it's not like Boston's been routing the Pacers. We've had a couple of close games. They have held in there with them.
It is amazing. And by the way, I keep repeating the fact that nobody's ever come down from 0-3. Remember, Boston almost did it last year. They were down 0-3 to Miami. Remember that? Yeah. And then somehow inexplicably they get blown out on their home floor in Game 7, which still just blows your mind. But now you look at this, I don't see any chance of either one of these teams coming back from 0-3. I would say crazier things have happened, but it's never happened. So crazier things have not happened in this exact instance. You mentioned Nembhard. His player total here is 16.5. Ironically, the odds have moved a little bit. The numbers stayed the same since our conversation last night, but now it's juiced to the under. To your point, Holden, minus $1.15. Look, I still think he can get you 17, though, right? Well, you're not going to get 30 plus, I wouldn't believe. But I guess if we're believing that we're still getting points, and I'm not, I actually think we might get our first under in this series, because I just wonder if you get to the fourth quarter, it's a double-digit spread. Boston calls the dogs off, which means you get Tatum and Brown out of there. And then all of a sudden, this thing kind of just dies on the vine. I can see that the fans in attendance, giving a hand clap offering to their home team for the effort, the valiant effort for 4 games, but more of the run to the, maybe Rick Carlisle's pulling out that speech now, which I guess he has to, but how do they get it done? Does Miles Turner and Pascal Siakam, they have to be the guys that hit the Rovers? 17.5 for Miles and 22.5 for Pascal.
Yeah, I think that's interesting that you say that, because how do they get it done? First of all, Boston can't show up. That's the first thing, which is entirely possible, Dave. Entirely possible. Second thing is, if it's not Nembhard, who is it? Is TJ McConnell all of a sudden show up?
14.5 for McConnell? That just feels high, doesn't it?
Well, they need a scorer. They need somebody to score. And actually, Nembhard, 15.5, I'd bet the over. 16.5 was set perfectly, because I think he's got 16, 12, and then 32, that big game that he was coming off of. I almost feel like I'd rather go back to Nembhard than go to McConnell for 15 points. But again, if we throw in some assists, if we throw in some points and assists, I can go Nembhard 24 plus.
Sure.
But he's going to have to score. I'll just say that. Nembhard's going to have to score.
Well, you mentioned the only way the Pacers survive and extend the series back to Beantown is if Boston doesn't show up. If they don't show up, does that lead towards an under? And then Jason Tatum, his player prop is 29.5. Jaylen Brown, who apparently isn't well liked, according to Stephen A. Smith. Did you see that whole thing?
That was blown out of proportion.
Did you see that whole thing? So Jaylen Brown tweets at Stephen A.
I know.
Basically, name your source. And then Stephen A. says it's not happening. And then goes on to say, I'm not going to give you the source, but it was really complimentary.
Yeah, it wasn't very complimentary.
It wasn't very complimentary. No, it wasn't.
What he had said to him.
But then I wanted a chip on the shoulder. Jaylen Brown, 25.5. That's all happened since Game 3.
As talented as Stephen A. is, he has the bearing of lowest common denominator sports talk, making fans dumber. So you're not going to find me. I'm not a guy that's going to back him. Okay, even if he's right.
But I wonder,
I'm not backing him.
Does that play into the way Jaylen Brown plays Game 4?
I mean, maybe he comes out. If you want to, are we betting on Narrative Street? We could bet Narrative Street. I'd rather bet Tatum to get 30 points than Jaylen Brown
to get 26.
Tatum's got to get going too. Both these guys are one-on-one players. This is what drives me nuts about the Celtics. They're going to go to the finals against Dallas. It's a 2-man gang. Maybe they get Porzingis back, but it's going to be superstar versus superstar, right?
Oh yeah.
I think I'll take the Dallas superstars over the Boston superstars.
Well, if you just played, we could just settle this easily. Let's just play 2-on-2 for 7 games. Just take everybody else out. Kyrie and Luka against Jaylen and Jason. And I think you're right. I think the majority of the people would take Kyrie and Luka at this stage as the bigger of the big two versus Boston's big two, which then bears the question, whose bench is better? Because really, not saying that they could cancel each other out, but as we talked about last night, the big two of Dallas has been much better than the big two of Minnesota. If that's supposed to be Cat and that's supposed to be Ant, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's not even close. We talked about last night. combined 66 for the big two of Dallas, combined 40 for the big two of Minnesota. So the others from Minnesota are doing more than the others of Dallas, but the superstars are outplaying the other superstars. Would that narrative have to continue for Dallas to ultimately win the Larry O'Brien Trophy?
Yeah. And again, I'm going to come back to this. First of all, they got to get Lively back, and they will. I mean, they're going to have almost. We
would hope that
they're going to have almost 2 weeks, right? All right, a concussion. You know what? Depending how serious it is, he might not be back. But I do think they're going to need Lively.
They're going to need
Lively, right?
Yes.
So that would be a big hit. Let's start there. But on the other side, with the Celtics, Drew Holiday, Peyton Pritchard, like they just, even Derek White, they just go deep. Like they have the better secondary players, whereas I feel like the Mavericks their 2 stars are better than the Celtics stars. They're better coached. They've got more synergy. Doesn't seem like they lay an egg as much. That's going to be a fascinating series, but as long as we're talking about tonight's game, this is going to be a perfect live spot to back the Celtics for me. If the Pacers end up gritting one out, I think that's another mark against the Celtics heading into the NBA Finals. Because they're going to win this series. I think so.
It matters to you? Like
be a dog, man. Be a dog. Close the series out tonight and do it emphatically. Don't mess around. You need to get Porzingis back in there too. I mean, it doesn't matter. He's not playing anyways, but go get your game tonight. Sit back, kick back, wait for the Mavericks to seal off their series and try and win a championship. I need to see some dog out of the Celtics, and they've gotten this far without really showing the killer instinct.
What would be interesting is how that first quarter goes. And by the way, the Pacers right now +2. If you like the Pacers to win the first quarter, plus $1.36. Like if Rick Carlisle is giving you the Brother Bluto speech in Animal House, right? If he's doing that's what he's doing. Let's rally, let's toga party this thing up, and let's go win the first quarter, boys. Like I don't know that they can win all 4, but they might be good enough to win 1, right?
Maybe.
Kids still remember Animal House, don't they?
No. They do know the Germans bombed Pearl Harbor.
Germans? Don't stop him. He's rolling. Jonathan Davis is coming up next. Host of Ice Cap. We're going to talk all things puck. That's next here on VSiN PrimeTime.
This is VSiN Primetime with Tim Murray and Jonathan Von Tobel on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
Before you make those Memorial Day bets, check out VSiN.com. We got best bets, betting splits, exclusive articles, odds by state, including Colorado, betting tools, betting guides. It's all there for you each and every day at VSiN.com. Back alongside Holden Kushner from the great state of Colorado. I see a Rock Chalk basketball and a Broncos helmet behind you. I am Dave Ross here in Las Vegas, and a pleasure to always catch up and talk all things puck with our next guest, Jonathan Davis, host of Ice Cap on Sirius XM, Show Me the Money podcast. You can follow him as I do at West Coast Hockey. That's HKY. Joins us now on the Progressive guest line. Jonathan, always love catching up with you as we get deeper and deeper into the Stanley Cup playoffs here. Let's start out west. We've got a Game 3 tonight between the Stars and the Oilers. Before we get to which side you like, I want to talk about the total, sitting there at 5.5. We've had 2 dead unders out west so far in games 1 and 2. Does that benefit the Stars, the tighter the ice gets clamped down a little bit? Because my belief would be that the Oilers would like it a little bit more free-flowing. Do you see it the same way?
I would have with the Oilers of years past, but the one thing that I'm hearing from Dallas Stars players is that they're very impressed with the fact that the Oilers are willing to grind out games this year. And that's what they're doing, and they're very comfortable in it. So, for Edmonton, I don't think, they're not out of their element playing a 2-1 or a 3-2 game. I mean, they've played I think it's 10 one-goal games in the playoffs, and, really game 2 was really, outside, it was really a one-goal game. You had the empty netter. So I don't think the Edmonton Oilers of 2024 have a problem playing a low-scoring game.
Yeah, 9 of the last 11 games have been 1 goal. It's fascinating, right? They've won 6 of 10 of those 1-goal games. And we've got Skinner here, who's it looks as though he turned the corner over the last 3 or 4 games. What do you make of his performance in this series, really dating back to the end of the Canucks series, and how that bodes for the Oilers going into tonight?
Well, he definitely looks like a much more confident goalie than he did, prior to getting pulled for games 4 and 5. There's no question about it. The one thing that's very interesting, guys, with Stuart Skinner is that he loves a high volume of shots. His numbers, guys, when he faces 25 or fewer shots in a game, he's 12 and 11, and his goals against average is over 3, and his save percentage is in the 850s. When he faces more than 25 shots, he's 32 and 9, like a goals against average of around 2.3 and a save percentage of 920. So it's really interesting to me that, for him, he likes the high volume shot totals. I mean, his 4 losses this year, I think, the most he had was 26. And in that game he had 26, he only made 21 saves.
John, it is fascinating because, again, you mentioned Edmonton of last year. And they just like the great, certainly on the power play, it was historic last year. You just couldn't stop them. They're going to score if you go a man down. How were they able to switch it? Were they able to do this throughout the regular season too, or has this really been born in the second season here in the postseason that Edmonton knew they had to play tighter shifts than they did a year ago?
Yeah, I think that's a lot of what, it's what their coach, Jay Woodcroft, who got fired, early in the year, was trying to get them to do. But, he was dealing with an injured Connor McDavid and an injured Matthias Ekholm, while he was there. Those 2 guys, got healthy. They bring in a new coach. And Chris Knobloch, this is the guy that's got the least experience out of all of them, but is sure coaching like a veteran. So there has been a commitment. I go back to last year when they got eliminated by Vegas, guys. The tears in the eyes of both Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl when they met with the media after Game 6. For them, it's not about scoring. These 2 guys hate to lose more than they like to win. And they understand that they have to change the way they're going to play to win a cup.
This doesn't have much to do with betting, but it's got everything to do with Edmonton, the whole country of Canada, backing these guys. What do you expect the atmosphere to be like? Because I'm really excited, and I grew up a Rangers fan. I started betting. I'm not a Rangers fan anymore. I'm all about the Edmonton Oilers. Canada deserves it at this point, even though I'm still upset at Sidney Crosby about the Olympics. But it's a lot I had to get off of my chest here.
Wow.
What do you think it's going to be like up there tonight?
Oh, it's going to be bedlam. I mean, look, the atmosphere, I think in most, Edmonton and Vancouver have 2 of the best barns, I think, in the NHL. It's a lot better than what Toronto is, and Montreal can be good as well. The whiteout in Winnipeg is something special. Hockey in Canada at this time of the year is great. So it's going to be mass hysteria. And they always talk about, for Dallas, you got to try to just quiet things down for the first 10 minutes. Here's the other thing. Jake Ottinger, guys, he's 5-1 on the road in the playoffs. He hasn't given up more than 2 goals in any road playoff game. So when you go to the betting angle, for me, look, I like Dallas tonight. I think there are a couple of ways to approach it. You could take Dallas on the plus money. You can get Edmonton, take the Edmonton team total at under 2.5. I think it's around plus 130. So those are ways that I could see approaching the Dallas Stars, as well as, the Skinner save prop was 24.5 in game 2. Well, odds makers didn't do us any favors. They dropped it by 1 to 23.5. I'd lean under, but I think the other 2 plays are stronger.
Jonathan, it's interesting because I was mentioning off the top of the show, I don't know how much home ice really matters anymore. You mentioned how the atmosphere is going to be tonight in Edmonton. I wonder if it'll play out. We all know about Madison Square Garden. It does feel different if you've ever watched hockey there. The Stars and Oilers are still a coin flip here, even though Edmonton has home ice. And even with the Rangers, yes, they're the favorites now over Florida now that they've recaptured home ice. Does it still have the importance, home ice, that it used to in playoffs past?
Oh, I don't believe it does at all. I think, and there's 2 reasons for it. One, I think teams are far deeper and far more talented. Their forwards, especially 1 through 12. You don't have guys that are in the lineup to just drop the mitts every night. The other thing is that during the regular season, guys, you're getting a team on a back-to-back or maybe 3 games in 4 nights. We're both on both teams are on the same schedule. So I think it takes away from the home ice. So yeah, home 41 and 32. I think they were on the side as well last season. So I think those are two reasons why home ice is not as much of a factor, if any, going forward.
How are we feeling about the Eastern Conference Finals? Rangers minus 60 to get through, up 2-1. Panthers plus 140. Where are you sitting on that series?
Well, I still think the Florida's the better team. And they, the shots and the shot attempts were tilted in their favor. But at the end of the day, they got Shesterkin yesterday. I mean, that third period by Igor Shesterkin was Conn Smythe worthy. They're not getting production out of their star players in Zibanejad and Kreider. But Alexis Lafreniere, the former number 1 pick overall, is showing why he was that pick. And Barclay Goodrow, there are some players that get you to the regular season, and there are some players that get you through the playoffs. And Barclay Goodrow has shown that in his playoff history. I mean, I go back to his days in San Jose. He sat 40 minutes of actual, not clock time, but just time on the bench before scoring an overtime winner. This is his time of the year. So there, got to like a lot of things about the Rangers. But I do look. I think Florida's just a little better. We're going to get another great performance, I would expect, out of the Panthers. But yeah, look, the Rangers are the no respect team. President's Trophy winner, and they're still always fighting. They're always the dog.
Yeah, plus $1.40, as you guys mentioned. There's still some value on Florida if you think they can rebound here, at least get one in the Garden and potentially tie that thing up at 2 games apiece here for Game 4. I do want to get back to tonight and some of the player props that you have, Jonathan, on the board. Tyler Seguin, obviously, is a stud. We all know that. You like him because, really, his shots on goal has been pretty profitable, correct?
It has been. And finally, again, the books are not being kind. They've seen that it's been a moneymaker. So it went from plus money. It was like plus 103 for Game 2. It's now minus 126, but over 2.5 shots on goal for Seguin. He's hit it in 11 of 15. And then on the Oilers side, the two guys that are playing with Leon Draisaitl, who was blank for the first time in the playoffs, didn't get on the score sheet in Game 2, first time in 14 games. But his line mates have been very strong. And Dylan Holloway, over 1.5 shots on goal. He's hit that number in 5 straight. And then Evander Kane, over 2.5 shots on goal. Holloway, by the way, at minus 103. Evander Kane, over 2.5 shots on goal at minus 118. He's obliterated that number in 4 straight.
Is Rupe Hines supposed to be back tonight?
Game time decision, and that's a big one. I mean,
yes.
So for and not only what it does is you're losing your number 1 center guys, and it also has an effect on Jason Robertson because that's who he was used to playing with all season long, and it's definitely part of the reason why his goal production has suffered.
Only have about 30 seconds, Jonathan. Yeah. When I look to win the Stanley Cup, Rangers plus 240, Edmonton and Dallas both plus 260, Florida now the long shot at plus 380. Any value in any of those 4?
Oh my God, I think there's value in all 4, Woo! But yeah, I don't think you can pick a loser. Look, I'm feeling really good. I got Dallas at 11-1, and I got the Rangers, I think, at 9-1, and Florida at 10-1. So, but I think all of those still have value. So
you're sitting in the catbird seat with 3 out of the 4 there, Jonathan. I appreciate you joining us here on the Progressive Guest Line. Enjoy Game 3 tonight. We'll catch up again soon.
All right, take care. Thanks for having me, guys.
Great stuff always from Jonathan. Again, you can give him a follow on X at West Coast Hockey HKY. When we come back, I told you last night, trouble in paradise in the ATL. We'll discuss the NL East next here on VSiN PrimeTime.
This is VSiN Primetime with Tim Murray and Jonathan Von Tobel on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
We're getting so close to crowning an NBA champion. And with the action heating up on the court, it's even hotter at DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NBA. If you're new to DraftKings, well, listen up. New customers can get a no-sweat bet up to $1,500. Just deposit at least $5. You're going to get a bonus bet back equal to your first bet if it does not hit. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now. Use the code VSiN, and the crown can be all yours. Back alongside Holden Kushner, Dave Ross here as we continue this edition of VSiN Primetime. And I told you last night, I said, iceberg, dead ahead for the Atlanta Braves.
Yeah.
You didn't listen to me. You didn't believe me. And I know
why Tom Check,
our esteemed producer today, big Braves guy. Look, I'm sad as a baseball fan that Ronald Acuna is no more. He's done. Out for the year. Torn ACL. Bye-bye. But the games must go on. And when they go on, game one, post Acuna, what'd I tell you? The Titanic is cruising right for that iceberg, and they can't stop.
You know what? Just because you're saying this, I'm going to bet the Braves will come back at the bottom of the ninth.
They were down 8-0. They were down 8-0 to the Nats today.
It's $5. I don't even care. And then it'll be it's worth it to lose $5, like five, not
to root against
like
me.
Literally $5. It just to take. I mean, unfortunately, I can only get plus 3.5
because I'm looking
at plus 200.
Good news, Braves fans. You get Murphy back. He's in the lineup. He went 1 for 4 today with an RBI. Now, I look at this lineup because you talked about it last night, and I said I'll be curious to see what the lineup looks like day one post Acuna. Ozzie Albies, batting leadoff, 1-4, hitting 269 of the year. You mentioned Austin Riley, 238, 0 for 4 today. Ozuna's still hitting. He's over 310 right now. Matty Olson, 230. Murphy back in the lineup, 143. Adam Duvall, 212. I mean, Harris, 262. Arcia's 245. I mean, yeah, I don't know. They got to start playing like the Atlanta Braves. 6 games back of the Phils right now. You get plus $1.20 to win the division. Look, I'm not saying they're going to fall all the way out and the Reds are going to pass them and take a wild card spot from Atlanta. But at some point, do the Braves need to make moves before the deadline? Spencer Strider's not walking through that door. All of a sudden, you just look at it and I go, I get it, man. It looked like this ship was infallible and nothing could bring it down. Injuries are eroding the Titanic. They were minus 240 holding to win the division this offseason. 240. And now you get them at plus $1.20.
Yeah.
Like, are you worried?
Well, I took them to score a run in the bottom of the ninth at plus 180, by the way.
You did?
Just to shut you up.
Man
and
on,
I really
nobody
hope
out.
They score.
Lead off, man on. Good for you.
Yeah, I hope it works out.
I hope they get 3 runs.
Well, Duvall is a complete waste against the right-hander, so that doesn't matter. But they got Murphy back today.
Yep.
They brought up Duvall over the weekend. They've got Austin Riley back too. So I'll say this once again. And yes, they won the World Series without Acuna. They kind of caught lightning in a bottle. Soler went ballistic. They had Dansby Swanson. They had a whole bunch else going on there. With that being said, their rotation, even without Spencer Strider, is still sensational. Chris Sale, you talk about an amazing move here. Alex Anthopoulos, their general manager.
Yeah.
Just going out, getting Sale. You've got multiple top shelf arms on this team. So that's the first thing. The second thing is, in all likelihood, they will have to go out and make a move. Everybody's talking about Tommy Pham, Taylor Ward. They might have to go a little bit deeper than that, a little bit bigger than that, to be perfectly honest with you. But I don't think you have to make a deal right now. Let's see, give it, a couple of weeks at least, see if Riley gets going, see if Duvall can smash lefty, see if Sean Murphy comes back. Maybe Matt Olson catches fire too, because you've just got an offense that was already underperforming, and Acuna was kind of underperforming too. So I'm not as down as you are on the Braves. I'm not taking them to win the division, not when you're spotting the Phillies 6 games. You just lost Acuna. They're not going to score in this inning either, are they? That's too bad. I'm not as down on the Braves as you are. They're still a playoff team. And then when you get into the playoffs, if you got the pitching, you can make a run. But this is obviously just, it's soul crushing.
Well, it is. And again, Wyatt said as we were going to break that I said it with a little angst towards the Braves because I hate the Braves. As a Mets fan,
I don't know why.
I hate them. I hate them.
Yeah.
Shouldn't hate anything, but I do hate the Braves. But the point is, why aren't we just jumping on the Phillies at minus $1.50? Like, what are we doing? Like, $1.50 is a reasonable price with a 6-game lead, and you lost your ace pitcher and your ace Ricky Henderson. That's a lot to over. Like, if they come back from that and I'm laying $1.50, don't you just tip your cap to the Braves? They've done it before because they ran down my Mets a couple years ago. I remember it well. Mm-hmm. Mets had an insurmountable lead until it was surmounted. Yep. So I'm not saying this is dunzo, but it feels like a fair price. Like, to me, this price should be over $2 for the Phillies. They're 22 games over 500, losing to the Giants, by the way, right now, 5-4, out in San Fran. But, like, that feels like a fair, bettable price on the Phils, who I also don't have a whole lot of love for.
Do you think this is as close as the Braves are getting then? So you don't think that they're going to get within 6 games again?
Well, what's the move? Because look, I like Tommy Pham. I do. I like grinders. I like professionals. But Tommy Pham is not going to replace, Acuna and then go, hey, we're all good here, right? So
Correct.
Short of I don't know what the move is to make. It would have been the Juan Sotos. It would have been that type of move mid-season before the deadline. Is there a player of that caliber that's out there? I don't know.
We talked about it. It's one of the Blue Jays guys.
Yeah, there you
Vlad.
go. Well, see, now that would change the market numbers.
Yeah, Vlad would be one of them. I think you're going to have to give up a ton to go get him, but that's definitely going to be there. So, and then you've just got to look at teams that are going to start falling out of the races, and then you start matching things up. There's still a ton of time left.
So it would be like a Luis Robert, like somebody like that to go get?
That'd be fine. Yeah, that'd be fine. Again,
that would get my attention.
2 months into the season, Dave. They didn't score a run either. They had first and third, 2 down, but the Braves didn't score a run. So, and my spite bet did not work. Spite bets rarely work, by the way.
That's true.
So there's so much time left in this season. So many other position players are underperforming offensively.
Mm-hmm.
I still think you give this team, a few weeks to flush things out and see if they can get going. Now, if you're going you lose 10 to 12, then things start to change. But this is not a bad Braves team by any means. Their pitching will keep them in it. They just need guys like Matt Olson to get back and Ozzie Albies to get back what they were doing last year.
Well, then that begs the question. You think the value for the Braves would be World Series at 7-1? There's some value in that number versus the plus $1.20 to run down the Phillies, right? Because I actually think that your 7-1 play is a better long-term odds perspective, because once you get to that second season, all bets are off. Now, more than likely they'd have to go the wild card route, but it hasn't helped them in years past to be the divisional champ. That rest sometimes seems like it's been counter-effective for the Braves and actually worked to the Phillies' favor. So now the Phillies would be the team with the rest, and they've always been the wild card. And then they come in and upset the apple cart every year. So you actually think that the Braves, it wouldn't be that daunting with the pitching that they still have remaining. Now you hope you don't get any more injuries, that they'd be able to win a short series and then get into a longer one, and then you'd feel really good about having 7-1.
Yeah, maybe get through the National League or something like that, because the Dodgers have proven that postseason runs are really difficult. The Phillies have knocked the Braves out last couple of years. Right. I get it. Braves can knock them out. Again, there is enough talent on this team to still make the NL East very interesting.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think that this is a World Series team without Acuna and Strider, but, and I'll say this, and by the way, wasn't their preseason win total well over 100 games?
Yes, and we advise that's why you don't bet those.
This is why you don't do that.
That's why you don't. Again, everybody listening, hopefully, we try to ingrain this into more things. Everything has to go right for those overs to hit. It doesn't take a whole lot for the unders. And this is case in point. We don't root for injuries. Injuries happen. Now, you hope they wouldn't happen to your top pitcher and your top offensive weapon, but that's what's happened now to the ATL. And I'll just tell you this. If they do get a wild card, I think it's going to be a really tough out when they go to the NL Central champion Cincinnati Reds in that first. That would be tough. Braves at Reds as the champs.
You and the Reds again. Would you stop it, Ross?
What? You didn't like how I snuck that in?
They're not.
Just saying. Plus 550 for the Reds to make the playoffs.
I had to listen to this for 3 hours last night.
Reds, by the way.
Between Kaiser Sose and the Cincinnati Reds, my head's about to explode, Ross.
Reds 3-1 winners today over those red-hot St. Louis Cardinals. Second hottest team in baseball, by the way, with a 4-game winning streak. When we come back, Holden, we're going to talk about not your team, not my team, America's team. Find some value in the Dallas Cowboys. Hey, it's Memorial Day. It's Americana, baby. We're back in a moment.
We're this close to crowning an NBA champ, and with the action heating up on the court, it's even hotter at DraftKings Sportsbook.